We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Strongest words yet from the US President warning Israel. Biden declares US won't supply weapons if ground operations in Rafah initiated. Holds back delivery of high payload munitions. Russia launches massive attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure facilities. 3 thermal power plants badly damaged. Airstrikes cause blackouts in multiple regions. Rain fury returns to add to misery of flooded southern Brazil. Death toll reaches 100 as search and rescue operations interrupted by fresh storms. And the Olympic flame arrives in France amid tight security. The flame will travel around France and 6 overseas territories before arriving in Paris for the opening ceremony on the 26th of July. Well, the US President Joe Biden has said he will halt US weapons shipments to Israel if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu orders a large-scale operation in Rafah. In an interview on Wednesday, Biden said that the US was still committed to Israel's defense and would supply Iron Dome rocket interceptors and other defensive arms, but added that if Israel goes into Rafah, US will not supply the weapons and artillery shells used. Rafah is the last major Hamas stronghold in Gaza. Biden said he did not consider Israel's strikes a full-scale invasion as they have not struck population centers. Also, US has been working with Arab states that are prepared to rebuild Gaza and help with the transition to a two-state solution following the war between Hamas and Israel. When asked about 2,000-pound bombs sent to Israel, Joe Biden confirmed that the United States has supplied these to Israel, but has now paused sending in its war against Hamas. Meanwhile, the United States is by far the biggest supplier of weapons to Israel, and it accelerated deliveries after the October 7th Hamas-led attacks. In 2016, the US and Israeli government signed a third 10-year memorandum of understanding that provides $38 billion in military aid over the 10 years, $33 billion in grants to buy military equipment, and $5 billion for missile defense system. Last month, the US Congress approved $26 billion in additional funding for Israel. And Israel announced its intentions to carry out a major operation in Rafah in February this year. This met backlash from the international community, including from Israel's largest military supplier, United States. On February 12th, the US first voiced concern, saying civilians who are packed into Rafah in the Gaza Strip are exposed and vulnerable and must be protected. President Biden did not talk about any consequences but urged their protection. However, by March, the US hinted at considering conditioning military aid to Israel if it were to invade Rafah. They also issued its strongest public warning till then, terming any attempt in Rafah would be a mistake. On March 19th, Biden, in a phone call with Netanyahu, asked him to send a team to Washington to discuss ways to target Hamas without a major ground operation in Rafah. On 5th of April, the two leaders spoke again, during which Biden stressed Israel must implement steps to address civilian harm and the safety of workers and work towards a ceasefire to bring hostages home. On 5th of May, the US, expecting Israeli invasion, indicated to put a hold on a shipment of ammunition. And now, on 8th of May, US officials are talking of a hinge point in the relationship in which this suspended arms package could be just the first manifestation, depending on how Israel now acts in Rafah. And Israeli women rallied in Tel Aviv on Wednesday demanding the release of around 130 hostages still held after 6 months in Gaza by terrorist group Hamas. This week, Hamas declared it had accepted a ceasefire proposal brokered by Egypt, but Israel rejected the offer, accusing Hamas of altering the terms of the deal. Though the negotiations did not break off and shuttle diplomacy continues, with CIA Chief Bill Burns in Israel on Wednesday to meet Netanyahu. Street demonstrators by families and supporters of hostages still held in Gaza have become a constant fixture, with protesters demanding a ceasefire deal with Hamas to get them back. Others are demanding the government and the Israeli Defense Forces press ahead with the Rafah operation against the remaining Hamas formations holding out around the city.
Yes, for us, every minute there's a little bit hope. Sometimes it makes it even harder because you allow yourself to hope and then you fall again because again it fails. So it's like a roller coaster. It's really, really emotional and ups and downs, and it gets worse and harder every day.
First and foremost, bring them home and ceasefire now are not sentences that are going against each other. They go together. Ceasefire now and bring them home.
Well, there's still no sign of a breakthrough in Egyptian-mediated talks between Israel and Hamas, but negotiations are continuing in Cairo. Meanwhile, the director of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency is reported to have been in Israel meeting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In Washington, the U.S. Defense Secretary has publicly acknowledged that the decision to hold up weapon shipments to Israel is a response to its plans for a larger offensive in the Gazan city of Rafah. DD India's Washington correspondent Kate Fisher reports for more.
In the most blunt public statement to date that the US does not approve of its ally Israel's plans to invade Rafah, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told a Senate committee that the US has paused one shipment of high-payload munitions. He said that from the beginning the US has been clear that Israel shouldn't launch a major attack into Rafah without accounting for and protecting the civilians that are in the battle space. The public nature of his comments increases the strain on the US-Israeli relationship, and it signals the kind of leverage that the US can use to influence Israel's conduct in the war. But Republicans have condemned the move, arguing that the US is contradicting the will of Congress after lawmakers pass more than $14 billion in funding to help Israel in its fight against Hamas. Secretary Austin argued that the Biden administration's commitment to Israel's security is still, quote, ironclad, and that the US would, quote, continue to do what's necessary to ensure that Israel has the means to defend itself. Meanwhile, a mid-level Israeli delegation remains in Cairo for ceasefire talks with Hamas, despite a lack of progress. The main sticking point appears to be that Hamas wants a complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip, but Israel's leader Benjamin Netanyahu says its forces won't stop fighting until Hamas is destroyed and the hostages are released. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
Well, updates from Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russian missiles and drones struck nearly a dozen Ukrainian energy infrastructure facilities on Wednesday, causing serious damage at 3 thermal power plants and blackouts in multiple regions. Ukraine's Air Force said it shot down 39 of 55 missiles and 20 of 21 attack drones used for the attack. 2 people were injured in the Kyiv region. Some 350 rescuers raced to minimize the damage to energy facilities, 30 homes, public transport vehicles, cars and a fire station. Ukrainian CEO Vladimir Kudyrsky said that the damage is on quite a large scale. There is a significant loss of generating power, so significant that even imports of power from Europe will not cover the shortage that has been created in the energy system. Russia's defense ministry said it struck Ukraine's military-industrial complex and energy facilities in retaliation for Kyiv's strikes on Russian energy facilities. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un expressed firm support and solidarity for Russia in his congratulatory message to Russian President Vladimir Putin over Victory Day, which marks the 79th anniversary of the end of World War II. Russia on Thursday marks the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II as relations with the West spiral deeper into crisis over the advance of Russian troops against Ukraine's Western-backed forces. And Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted a summit of the Eurasian Economic Union leaders in Moscow on Wednesday. The EAEU, an economic organization, includes Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan as its members. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, who was in Moscow for the Victory Day parade on 9th of May, attended the summit as an observer. And Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Budapest on Wednesday, marking the third and the last stop on his first European tour in 5 years. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán and his wife received the Chinese president at the airport. Xi's visit to Hungary marks his first state visit to the European country as China's head of state. The Chinese president is due to meet Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán on Thursday. Xi is on a state visit to Hungary at the invitation of President Tamás Sulvok and Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. The U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday swiftly defeated an effort by Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene to remove Republican Speaker Mike Johnson from his leadership role. Democrats joined Republicans in a 359-43 vote to protect Johnson's speakership in a bid to avoid a replay of the chaos that occurred in October when Republicans ousted his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy. Earlier, standing flanked by fellow Republican Thomas Massie, Greene criticized Johnson for a string of compromises with Democrats who hold a majority in the Senate.
Mike Johnson is ill-equipped to handle the rigors of the job of Speaker of the House and has allowed a uniparty, one that fuels foreign wars, tramples on civil liberties, and increases our disastrous national debt, to take complete control of the House of Representatives.
And some weather news now. Rains return to flooded southern Brazil. More rain and the risk of lightning and stiff winds interrupted rescue efforts and threatened to exasperate a catastrophe that has already killed at least 100 people and left over 1 lakh seeking shelter. The floods that began last week, caused by unusually heavy rains, have destroyed highways and bridges in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, which borders Uruguay and Argentina. At least 128 people are still missing, the state civil defense authority said, urging people living close to Pitos Lagoon, south of Porto Alegre, to leave their homes immediately. Brazil's National Center for Natural Disasters warned that the southern area of Rio Grande do Sul state was under high risk of more flooding, with rainfall expected to restart after a brief hiatus. And severe storms battered the Midwest U.S., unleashing a curtain of heavy rain, gusty winds and tornadoes throughout the region. Multiple tornadoes touched down in southern Michigan throughout the day, causing damage to several buildings. This wave of severe weather came right after a series of tornadoes hit Oklahoma the previous day, resulting in at least 1 fatality and 5 injuries. Reports from local media described extensive damage to homes and trees uprooted in the northeastern part of the state. Also, widespread recent power outages in Mexico were caused by unseasonably hot weather. President Andrés Manuel López assured consumers that the national grid has sufficient generating capacity going forward. Around 20 of Mexico's 32 states were affected by rolling power outages. Tuesday's power outages struck as large parts of Mexico have also been grappling with severe water shortages. On the other hand, winter-like weather surprisingly returned to Chile's capital, Santiago, which took residents by surprise in the austral autumn. Drone views captured Santiago's metropolitan area snow-capped. Authorities have advised locals in the Santiago metropolitan region to travel consciously. In July 2020, snow appeared in the eastern part of the capital, specifically in the commune of La Bonachie. In July 2017, Santiago residents woke up to a rare snowfall that blanketed the capital and caused widespread power outages. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Campaigning intensifies as the fourth phase approaches on the 13th of May, rallies being held in full swing. Maldivian Foreign Minister Musa Zamir to visit India today. Discussions on bilateral and regional issues of mutual interest. In IPL, Mumbai Indians becomes the first team to be knocked out of playoffs race after Sunrisers Hyderabad beat Lucknow Super Giants on Wednesday.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DT India.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Now let's get you the latest in the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, the fourth phase of India's Lok Sabha elections is set to be held on the 13th of May, with voters across 96 constituencies in 10 states to cast their ballot. This phase will witness voters in all 25 seats in Andhra Pradesh and 17 constituencies in Telangana, along with other states participating in the electoral process. The build-up to this phase has been intense, with political rallies and campaigns in full swing. And campaigning for the fourth phase of Lok Sabha elections scheduled for May 13th gains momentum as political leaders holding rallies and roadshows across the nation. In order to garner support of voters in favour of party's candidate, Union Home Minister Amit Shah to hold a rally in Bhongir, Lok Sabha constituency of Telangana. Bharatiya Janata Party National President JP Nadda to hold public rally in Uttar Pradesh's Chitrakoot in support of candidate R.K. Singh Patel. BJP leader and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath to hold several rallies in the state. And with phase 4 of India's general election right around the corner, Andhra Pradesh is all set to go for both general polls and its assembly elections. Let's take a deep dive and know more about the state. And moving on, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Maldives, Musa Zamir, is on an official visit to India. Foreign Minister Zamir will meet the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar for discussions on bilateral and regional issues of mutual interest. Maldives is India's key maritime neighbour in the Indian Ocean region, and Foreign Minister Zamir's visit is expected to lend further momentum to the bilateral cooperation between the two countries. This is his first official visit to India since assuming office. And as wildfires continue to devour forest in Uttarakhand, the Supreme Court on Wednesday pulled up the state government, saying that cloud seeding or depending on rain is not an answer to the problem, and the authorities will have to take preventive measures to tackle it. Also, the Uttarakhand government has apprised the Apex Court that up to 0.1% of the forest cover in Uttarakhand was affected by fire incidents, and since November last year, there have been 398 forest fires in the state. Meanwhile, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami on Wednesday suspended 10 forest personnel and issued directions to initiate disciplinary action against 7 others for their alleged negligence that led to the fire. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. A team of police personnel and a magistrate recovered 45,90,000 rupees from a car in Ramgarh district of Jharkhand during a vehicle check. The static surveillance team handed over the seized amount to the sales tax team. The sales tax department team has informed the income tax department about the matter, and the income tax department will take further action in the matter after investigation. Ramgarh is part of the Hazirabad parliamentary seat, which will vote on 20th of May. A massive fire broke out in the bamboo nursery department of a Gujarat university in Navsari. The fire department reached the spot immediately and doused the fire. The cause of the fire is being investigated. The third Kashmir International Chess Tournament concluded in Srinagar on Wednesday. Over 100 players from India, Bangladesh, Nepal and various other countries participated in the 6-day event. This prestigious event has brought together some of the finest chess minds globally, showcasing strategic brilliance and tactical prowess. The first batch of pilgrims left from Delhi Ajia Airport for Saudi Arabia for the Holy Hajj pilgrimage on Thursday. Special arrangements and preparations are in place for the smooth transition of the pilgrims. This year, around 7,000 pilgrims from Jammu and Kashmir are eagerly preparing for the highly anticipated Hajj pilgrimage of 2024. And in sports, the Olympic flame landed on French soil amid tight security on Wednesday, firing the starting gun on a summer extravaganza of sports. The flame arrived in Marseille after a 12-day trip from Greece on board the Balam, a 28-year-old 3-masted tall ship. President Emmanuel Macron hopes the sport will showcase the splendors of France and burnish his legacy. The torch was brought to land by France's 2012 Olympic men's 50 meters freestyle swimming champion Florent Menador, who handed it to Paralympic athlete Nantanen Keita. She then passed it on to Marseille-born rapper Jules, who lit the cauldron in front of an ecstatic crowd estimated at 150,000. And in cricket, 5-time champions Mumbai Indians have been eliminated from the Indian Premier League 2024 playoffs race after Sunrisers Hyderabad thrashed the Lucknow Super Giants on Wednesday. Inconsistent Mumbai had to rely on the other team's results to keep their playoff hopes alive, but it didn't last long as SRH crushed it alongside LSG in Hyderabad. Held by heads 89 not out of 30 and Abhishek's unbeaten 75 of 28, SRH reached home in just 9.4 overs. Earlier, Ayush Badoni's unbeaten 50 carried the KL Rahul-led side to 165 for 4 in 20 overs. For the Super Giants, Badoni and Nicholas Pooran pushed them forward after they elected to bat first. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Kuran from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.